Good evening and welcome to chapter 6 of Slice of Mojo. This is my lockdown hair. It's gone very long. I was doing this before Elsa. And this is my office/gym, if you're wondering what's going on back there. Anyway, so chapter 6, Slice of Mojo, Tripping with Friends. My two friends, Mel and Mick, were playing pool in the Masons and drinking till closing time. Afterwards, I went back to Mel and Mick's for a party. We had a tab of acid each, and a couple of boxes of booze from my parents' pub, plus an ounce of dope that we smoked all night and the following day. About half an hour went by, and we started tripping. We all started laughing because Mel had never taken it before. She kept hiding in the bedroom and coming back out. And she thought we were laughing at her. Mick and I would laugh a lot more. After a while, we all agreed to go for a long walk. This was about 3 in the morning. We noticed all the trees down Anstey Road was all pink and the sky was all different colours. It was very mind-blowing and beautiful at the same time. We walked over to Caledon Castle ruins, and all the mist was high over the grass, which made it look pretty spooky. I noticed the arch windows of the castle and kept changing shapes and going in and out. I don't know how long we were there for. It seemed like time had stood still. After a while, we went back to Mel and Mick's place. We all carried on drinking and smoking until the sun came up. It was a beautiful day. When the pub opened over the road, we drank all dinner time outside the pub, and then made our way back to Mel and Mick's to crash out, and later made my way back home. Angel calling. Smoking dope and tripping on acid at Jan's party after drinking at my parents' pub in the Masons all night long. Jan lived just up the road from the Masons and wasn't far to go. We all dropped a tab of acid before leaving the pub. It was a quick effect, and everything started changing when somebody put some music on. Everyone's faces started changing and felt like I was in a room full of goblins and witches. After a while, I didn't know who was who, until my two friends, Mel and Mick, arrived. Mick stayed the same old Mick, but Mel started changing as she walked through the door. She had a brilliant beam of white light all around and through her body, and her face was glowing. She looked like an angel. I just couldn't stop looking at her. She was so beautiful. I'm in a room with all goblins and witches, and then a beautiful angel walks in. Wouldn't your eyes pop out of your head if that happened to you? After a while, I must have passed out until I woke up on the chair in the morning, and everyone had gone. North Wales Camping, Part 2. I lived at my parents' pub, the Freemasons Tavern in Harnell Lane, Coventry. Just before I moved into a 3-bedroom flat in Stonehouse Estate at the top of London Road on the side of Coventry. I was working for my parents behind the bar, and the band, the DTs, were playing there, and the place was packed. The lead guitarist, Steve Walwyn from the DTs, became a friend of mine. Many years later, he joined Dr. Feelgood. That night, I met a lady called Rosie. We got chatting, and she asked me if I would like to come to a party, and the rock band Chainsaw will be there. So I said yes. I would love to meet them. A few nights later, I made my way to the party and met Rosie there, and she introduced me to everyone. I had a great chat with the band and getting stoned and drunk at the same time. After the party, Rosie ordered me a taxi to get home and said she'll see me again in a few weeks at my parents' pub. In the meantime, my move to Stonehouse Estate came up, and I moved in a few days later. I was still working at the Masons, and Rosie turned up. And she told me she just passed her test, and now she's got a car to run around in. She stopped for an hour or two, and we had a good chat. Rosie told me she's married, but they weren't getting on. And she said she'll come up to see me in about a week's time at my new flat at Stonehouse Estate. Rosie started coming up about once a week and told her husband Jim that she's going up with her friends Sandy and Rosie, but she ended up at my place. Rosie would come up and make a meal for both of us, and after we would get stoned and have some cocaine and champagne, and then we would go to bed until the early hours. This carried on for a couple of months. One night, Rosie came up and asked me if I would like to go camping in North Wales for the weekend with her and her friend Sandy. So I jumped at the chance and said yes. The three of us had a great time in Wales. When we got there, it was night time. It was pitch black on the campsite, so we pitched the tent up in the dark. What we did was to shine the lights from the car to put the tent up, getting stoned at the same time. We all got plastered that night and crashed out. In the morning, we would all go for a shower. I sneaked into the women's showers to have a shower with Rosie. Sandy was in the next cubicle laughing her head off. Then we all went back to the tent to have a few joints and a mug of wine. I have a photo somewhere of me standing outside the tent in my Afghan robe and a flat cap with a joint in one hand and a mug of wine in the other, just like Hugh Hefner. We got stoned all weekend and had a great time full of laughs. Feeling guilty. When we got back to Coventry, I met Rosie's husband Jim, and I found him to be a great guy. But I started to feel guilty of what I was doing. But I just couldn't stop myself from seeing Rosie. I started selling some blow for Rosie to my friends, which made me some money. And a bit of blow for myself.